Good morning. It is Sunday, March 9th. It's a beautiful day outside. It's about 50 degrees here, which might as well be summer. My name is Sebastian Carcioni. I own one of the nation's largest powerlifting gyms. I also direct anywhere between 10 and 15 local/pro level meets per year. And I'm on a mission to change the sport for the better. Joining me today is Bill Coyne, repeat guest. Couldn't get enough of me? You're like...
No, I think that we're just giving the people what
Yeah,
they want, Sebastian. So
yeah, exactly. Precisely. So actually, I do want to ask you. So, what are you currently doing? Are you still working in VC, or what's your?
no, so out of finance. That was a fun little that was a fun little break from the fitness world, and so now I'm training people
Oh,
again.
okay, yeah, that's where I kind
Yes,
of picked up
yeah,
on that.
yes.
Um, were you just like analyzing deals, or what were you doing for?
No, so initially it was so I joined this was a very sort of old school Wall Street thing. Was I had a There was a client of mine at the gym I had in Evanston who his background was he had previously been a director at Lehman Brothers until one day he found himself out of a job. I don't,
Yeah,
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 right,
yeah, right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
him and some buddies from Lehman created their own firm based in Chicago. And when I was handing over the gym, I was finance had always been really interesting to me. So I kind of wanted to see if I could break into there. So I gave him a call one day and just asked him, "Hey, if you were in my position and you wanted to get into banking, what would you do?" And he's like, "Well, come in, we can give you an internship and see how it goes." I was like, "Sure, we'll do that." And they ended up hiring me in, I think, about a month for like a full-time position. So then I ended up there for a while, and it was largely M&A, sell side M&A. Did that for a little while as an analyst. Moved from there into an analyst position for a relatively new venture capital group based out in New Mexico, which is what initially brought me here. And then left that a little while ago, and am back to training people.
Okay, yeah, because it was I had poked
Mhm.
you because I had heard, and when I started doing my stuff and I worked with the draft, I had the DraftKings thing pop up. I'm
Yes.
like, oh, like this is the opportunity, um, and I'm sure we're going to revisit that
Oh
at
yeah.
some point.
Yeah.
Um, Once we have somewhat of a more working model. That's what I've kind of gathered. It's very chicken and egg, though, right? You need money to make it work, but
It's
you
But you need
know,
proof of
make it
concept in order to
work.
get money. Like, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what is somewhat nice about the people I've talked to is like I have entrepreneurial, like I built $1 million business already. So like, it's not like this is my first
Mhm.
rodeo. But it is my first time raising. I didn't need to raise capital at the gym.
Right.
I just
Mhm.
I made money. I sold memberships, used the money to buy equipment, sold memberships, and just went back and forth and back and forth and
Mhm.
back and forth, and went into bigger and bigger buildings and bigger buildings.
Mhm.
Yeah, interesting. But again, we're going to talk about the current landscape of powerlifting, and
Yeah. No new ideas.
I have some rules for myself. Yeah, yeah. I just want to talk about what the like because I really think I love that you have this. I'm so new to the sport. I love that you have this old like old guard knowledge
Mhm.
like of what things used to be like because it helps because I go, wow, this is shit. And people go, no, this is amazing. We used to be in high school gym.
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing. Like, what we currently have is amazing. And so what happens is that kind of tends to be able to constrict people's view because they're like, oh, they've seen this, right? They've seen us go really far, and I've only seen a little bit. So I do take that with a grain of salt, but also like look at the UFC, look at all these other properties that have just ballooned over the past, 20
Mhm.
years. Um, but yeah, no new ideas. And I guess we want to jump into, you know what? Let's get your take. What's your take on like the entire landscape of powerlifting? Like, what do you see? Like, what's your general takes?
So we've talked a little behind the scenes about this, but I get the sense that it is still growing. Again, it kind of depends on the metrics that you're going off of. I think the biggest issue that the sport has, and this is pretty obvious, there are too many federations. There's just way, way too many, right? That's the biggest problem. It's such a splintered.
You really think, now we're going to get into a debate because I don't think that's at all an
No,
issue in any way.
that's a huge issue.
I
Absolutely. Yeah. What? So
that is not even,
I would like to hear why you think it's not an
no,
issue.
absolutely not. So again, it goes back to metrics. Like, what do you think the biggest issue is in powerlifting? And like the issue can't be too many feds because that can't, like, there's 1,500 amateur basketball organizations in the United States, and it's not an issue at all for basketball. It's not an issue at all for Little League baseball. It's not an issue at all for literally any other sport has multiple amateur organizations. It's just what happens. And competition breeds success. So lots and lots of federations doing lots and lots of different things is a good thing. The chief problem with powerlifting, number one and one alone, is that not enough people watch it. That is number one. We do not have enough cumulative viewership to generate enough sponsorship revenue to generate that's basically it.
So let me jump in on that point then. Wouldn't it be easier to get more people to watch certain events if everybody was being funneled into one organization and like some of these events that we're going to touch on later on, right? If they weren't going to all these different places, like all these, there's a handful of different nationals, there's a handful of different worlds, right? If everybody was going into the same place and it was very clearly like, this is the real world championship. This is, obviously IPF is really like at the top of the game.
Right.
But
I mean, I'm just gonna say right now, like every tested, and we'll get into this. Every tested lifter, I'm gonna open IPF or open powerlifting in a second, but I'm pretty sure every tested lifter in the top maybe 100 is in powerlifting America. There's like 3 holdouts maybe at this point. Now maybe it was an issue for like 2 years in 2022 to 2024 because Fed split, PFL, UFC, but right now I can't see that as an issue at all. There's no one over there. Like it's in terms of top talent, which isn't drawing any. I mean, the Arnold had 100 viewers. Like for the USAPL, I don't see that at all. You have counterpoint. I mean, I don't see multiple federations as being an issue. Maybe more so on the untested side, but
definitely on the untested side. But I guess mostly because I don't really know where you probably have a better idea of where the USAPL is, just because I've totally like left that around.
I'm gonna pull this up real quick on open powerlifting. I'm just gonna go through untested lift. Let's go tested lifters who have competed raw in. Let's go 2024 because not everyone's competed in 2025. Okay, Agata. Let's just do Americans because it doesn't really apply to international. That would just be all the international people are in the IPF.
Right.
With the exception of Keenan, who's doing PA Nats, and Rondell, who's also doing PA Nats. Both Keenan competitively because he's a citizen, and Rondell as a guest. So let's go. All United States lifters. Oh, but not tested. Okay, this is all fully tested events. Okay. So top 25 are all. This is everyone. Are all. It has the Fed listed. That's nice. Okay. So the only one. The only
one
outlier. The only one is Juwan Garrison.
Okay.
Who wanted to go to the PA, but admitted to taking peptides on his Instagram story and has a 4-year ban.
Right.
So that's it. Okay, so we're gonna throw him out. I think we can all say throw him out. Okay, we have number 51 is Jordan McKinley, who is doing PA Nats.
Okay.
But he was his with USAPL. Peter Huang, 62, I think I don't know where he's at, but he's number 62.
Okay.
And then this one I know, May Angelini Singui. I know she's for sure like USAPL, but there's some thing. I mean, there's 4
Okay.
people in the top
So
70. No one is again. It's no one relevant.
All the big people have made the jump. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go. Yes.
And on the amateur level too. I mean, we have pretty like it is the script has flipped. Like I hate to admit it, but I look at everyone's registration in Illinois. I look at every single director. I look at the volume. I look at the inflows. It's just what I do. I look at just how I look at other gyms. I look at other gyms, what their pricing is. I look at what their offering is. I look at it, and right now we have the script has literally flipped just starting this year, where more people are doing PA than are doing USAPL on the local level. Now that applies to Illinois because I think we really do a really great job. I've built this really great incentive structure with money and stuff, so maybe I'm the outlier. But honestly, I think I think it's pretty much over on the tested side. But maybe you see it from a different perspective. But yeah, I know.
Because it's a little different here. Part of it is we have meets down here run by Wes Zunker.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, are you familiar with this whole series that he's got?
Wes tried to help when I had my issue with the USAPL, and even he wasn't able to get anything done. So I actually appreciate it. He literally talked to me on the phone about it. Tried to save the USAPL from themselves, and I appreciate Wes. I have some of his equipment too, but yeah.
Okay. So I'm hoping he makes that jump at some point. But like down here in New Mexico, those are still by far the biggest meets, in part because he's got the cash component to it. And
yeah. I think we need to be very distinctive when we talk about who has the advantage. The advantage on the local level versus the advantage on the when you talk about there are too many feds and you talk about local level versus like national pro-esque level, I think those are two just separate conversations. Like I would see that the USAPL has the quote advantage on the local level, but what kind of advantage is that? That just means you have more meets, like
you've got more meets, you got more people at the local level. But I feel like that's
but like what is that good for? Like what does that do for you? Like I don't know what that accomplishes.
Right. Well, the question is do people for whatever reason, if they get into the USAPL at the local level, do they stay there out of loyalty, right? Or are they there to try to? Well, that's the question. I don't think so. No, because if they're serious about rising through the ranks, they're going to make the jump to Powerlifting America, right?
As soon as you get strong enough, you're switching.
Right.
And so the chief reason, so PA obviously, I think for a variety of reasons, has a better offering at the pro level. But what's a really untalked about thing, except I talk about it all the time, is Powerlifting America as a meet director has way better customer service. Like not even close, like not even remotely. Like 24-hour response, like immediate response. USAPL was 6 weeks. And so for me as a meet director, I would sooner start my own organization than I would go back to the USAPL and have to play, because speed is key when you're doing these things. If you have to wait 6 weeks for artwork approval, you can't announce your meet.
Yeah.
So and speed is like I said, king in business, and not being able to get your information out there and stuff is just very crippling. So yeah, I don't think unless there's organizational leadership change, which I've heard potentially might happen, but I can't see that right now.
That's interesting. I would have expected USAPL to be a little bit more efficient than that.
Well, they never had to be, right? Because they were the only tested game in town for a long time. Sure. And so they were monopoly. So they could just be like, nope, they were the DMV of powerlifting. Like, we'll take our time, we'll understaff, they take 2 weeks off, which is 2% of the year? Like what kind of business can just take 2 weeks off, as an organization? Like, and they do it multiple times. Every time they have a national, no service at all. I mean, that's multiple months if you count it cumulatively. So I think it's just they were not a monopoly. They didn't have to, right? If tough shit, right? If we don't answer your email, it's not like you have anywhere else to go. So I blame them because I like to provide great products to my customers, but like I understand. Is kind of what I say there. But yeah, I don't see a pathway for the USAPL moving forward because they offer nothing for the pros and they offer nothing for the local directors, which means that the local directors are the reason local lifters do meets. Like it's director based. Like you go where you like the director at the local level. So I don't really see a path forward for them unless they would have to offer something different. Like they couldn't just do the same thing Powerlifting America's doing. They'd have to offer something radically different to get people to come over. Like that's obviously my proposition is to switch to teams, which is radically different. But that's something that could potentially get fans over. But yeah, any other thoughts on that? I mean, are you not too much in the weeds on that?
It's just a different landscape down here, right? Because I'm mostly keeping an eye on things that are happening at the state level here.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot already to keep it. So it's hard to say. That's why it's saying like obviously you flipped all your meets over to Powerlifting America, and that was not an issue. And like you said, the participation numbers are now in favor of Powerlifting America in Illinois, right? Whereas that's not the case.
I wouldn't say it wasn't an issue. We you were there. We did 120 lifter meet, and then the next month did 150 lifter meet. We have yet to get back to those kind of numbers. And so it definitely wasn't. Now, also, I was doing much more frequent meets. Like I did a meet every single month once I moved to PA because it was so easy to just crank them out. But yeah, I don't think it wasn't not an issue. But I think now for sure the script has flipped, like you were saying. But yeah, I think anything else on that? You want to finish that thought at all?
No, I mean we could talk about Fed drama all day.
I think we'll move on. Okay, so anyway, untested, yes, you're too many.
Yeah, definitely
not too many Fed. Like just no. Outside of abs, you just have a bunch of infighting, like too much, like no clear. I think there's plenty of meets though. I mean, there's plenty of meets. There's plenty of opportunities for people to lift at the local level. So I don't really see an issue there. Every top untested person is doing abs. So, I mean, their issue is like.
For the most part, I mean, there's people that didn't do the big meet in Utah because, well, this is something, okay, this is a little different. This is interesting. That meet they did in Utah, it was a combo rack with a power bar, which meant you don't get a deadlift bar. So there were some people that didn't do that meet because they didn't get to use a deadlift bar, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with that meet was that it was based on totals. So the people who need a deadlift bar, I don't think anyone who didn't do that meet for that reason. I don't think anyone who had that issue wouldn't have qualified because he had everyone besides Jesus that was in the top 10. He had people. His issue was people dropped out because they got because glass cannon untested. No, I think when you talk about something that could potentially penetrate, because I had abs. They ran a meet here. I didn't direct, but I observed. And my general gym members, when they saw that a guy was pulling like 900 pounds, they were very engaged and very interested. They don't get engaged or interested in what goes on at my normal meets. They just don't care. And they shouldn't. It's not really competitive because it's all local meets. And they're not really lifting big weights, so there's really like no reason to watch. It's basically like going to a T-ball game. Like, oh, Johnny, yay! Like, it's not like I literally tell people do not come because it's gonna ruin their perception of powerlifting. I don't want that. I want to save it for something that matters. Like I don't even invite people like this meet coming up this weekend. It's got some good lifters and stuff, but I still don't have the right scoreboards, and I still don't have the right like format to really make it something that people want to watch. Like I'm not I'm not having the beer truck out at this one because it's only a 1 day, so it's like I can't even have that portion of it. But yeah, as far as back to the topic, that I think there's something there with untested, but I think it's more just like a spectacle. Like it'll be something that like Harlem Globetrotters type thing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
he's lifting. It's a carnival. It's a circus, right?
Yeah, it used to be, like we talked about the WPO in the last meet, like or in the last stream, that made it much more clear of being like, okay, there was money there, but also two, it was a world championships, and there was a much clearer path to getting there. It was also like a real world championship because you get a lot of people coming from Europe and Asia to compete in it as well. But as soon as that died, it just totally splintered, and there's no like
That
real
was
clear like
equipped,
anybody on
right?
time. That was
Yeah.
equipped, yeah.
So I think there's still a pretty large fringe. I mean, they were on ESPN as 2019, as soon as that. So
Yeah,
like that was kind of. I mean, someone in that realm has money.
that was
That's like funding this
not. It
stuff.
wasn't money. It was a connection. That was Michael Fahey who directed West Side versus the World because he had done some work for ESPN as a producer. So it was more he had the
Yeah.
connections, not so much the
Okay.
financing. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Very
But
interesting. Okay.
here's the thing: is they made it on ESPN and they never did it again. So I think that kind of tells you like
Right.
maybe
No,
how West sort of planned.
I
Yeah,
think most networks. I mean, they will try anything once,
sure,
right?
sure. Mhm.
And I genuinely think I think at some point we will get another trial for something more like. I mean, think about the way ESPN operates. Wouldn't they love a sport where men and women compete against each other? Like, wouldn't that just be like like in ESPN's
Yeah,
current construction, they wouldn't love that. Like, I just can't believe if a producer heard that, they'd be like, nah, let's not try that. Like, what are you what are you talking about? The talking heads talking about finally being able to talk about women's sports in like that kind of a light. I can't see that not
yeah.
happening.
I
But
would.
anyway, no new ideas.
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No new ideas. We'll save that for the next for later. Okay, so let's skip on. I think for untested to be successful, it's really just it's like midget wrestling. Okay, you go and you drink your beer and you watch the freaks do freaky shit. Like just
Yes,
keep it to that.
yes.
Keep it to that. I think the thing he's doing where he's doing a bunch of different meets in a bunch of different I'm talking about abs in a bunch of different cities is awesome.
Yep.
Like I think if he just turns it into a circuit and keeps it with the untested people can travel and do stuff, he'll be fine. But it's not going to be. I mean, tested is where it's at. It's where it's at in every other realm.
Hmm.
All right, coming up. So like the general landscape, like I'm just like we're going to talk about each of the big events coming. I have my little sister's dedication, so I got to make sure I'm time conscious. But generally the general landscape is just we're just going to talk about the testing side, like what the entire landscape. I think USAPL we're kicking to the curb. We're talking about all the talents moving to PA, and so coming up here this year we have PA Nats. Are you going to go?
I'm going to equipped Nats.
The equipped Nats.
Yeah.
Okay, actually,
Yeah.
I think I'm actually emceeing that because it's in Vegas or something.
Yeah, it's in Vegas.
Not available and someone's not. You should now that you're in PA, you should put your hat in that ring.
I
Honestly,
did. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because Zawolinsky lives here, so I can harass him all I want. Like about that.
So I've done it. I don't like it. I'm good at it. Actually high school nationals. I will probably definitely do because it's in Milwaukee. But I just get bored.
Yeah. This is something that we've kind of talked about elsewhere. I don't know if this falls under new idea thing, but I'll at least say really quickly. I have told him that I wanted to do not so much the emceeing, but the commentary side, do on the streams, right? Because I feel like that's something that needs a lot more work. But
So here's the problem, and we'll talk. So the problem is right now SPD does the stream, and so depending on what you do, um, like they're going to bring in Ryan Lapidat, who I've talked about before is misplaced, right? He is literally the Joe Rogan of powerlifting. And so Joe Rogan does not do the play-by-play. Joe Rogan does the color. And so I think if we could somehow find a way to move to get him slotted over and bring in a robust voice of powerlifting, that would be huge, because that is so. Did I tell you about my survey I did?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, everyone, literally 80% of the people who commented on how we could improve the stream said the commentary was bad, and that was across every federation. It was in every federation, multinational. I mean, we had people from every country do this survey, and they all said the same thing. So like at a certain point, and it was specific to the meets that they were doing. That you could select which meets you watched and what the issue was, and it was universal. No matter what meet, the commentary was bad. So yeah, I think that's something that could definitely be improved. 100%. And it'll be easier because SPD won't be doing the streams, like I think starting next year. So it'll be like more of a Powerlifting America production, which will be, I think, beneficial. I think to be able to expand a little more outside of the realm.
But
yeah, would love to see you do that. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, equipped. So you're going to equipped. That's awesome. That's in Vegas. I love
it. Is, yeah. Vegas in the middle of summer, so nice and cold, right?
Yeah, you know what? You're going to be inside and gambling and stuff, and go to the pool, and it'll be fine.
Not if I'm competing.
What? Oh yeah. Well, after that, the whole kind of thing with nationals is that's why it's great that it's in a good destination. It's a destination thing. You go, you compete, and then you go hang out. You go to like what's going to be going on in June. They don't have the baseball stadium yet. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So nice. I wonder what the air conditioning bill is going to be.
I have no idea. I can't imagine what it's got. How much energy they've got to be used to keep the ice frozen for the nights.
Well, I assume the building is very well insulated. You know how like
I hope so.
Insulated really well. That's right. They're gonna have to. So like the ice, I kind of understand. But that stadium with the glass, like keeping that thing cool, I don't understand. That they're gonna have to come up with something revolutionary. I'm sure they're gonna use like technology from Dubai.
Yeah.
All right, don't want to get too sidetracked. All right,
anyway.
PA Nat. So PA Nat. Everyone's coming on over. I guess so the only reason people do PA Nats, and we're talking about general landscape, the only reason people do PA Nats is to try to get to Worlds.
Yes.
Right? If like people are not spending money on their own travel to go stay in an expensive hotel and spend a bunch of money to compete, to not try and go to Worlds or become a national champion. So the thing I've talked about a lot is there really aren't a lot of incentives for people to do Nats because it's not really a great spectator experience. And so that's something I've really tried to press is how do we make this more spectator friendly? How do we make it more of a show? I've always contended that nationals should be a big, no new ideas, but nationals should just be a big festival for everyone. Everyone should go to nationals, compete in the morning, do it like Comic-Con where it's 50 platforms and everyone's competing in the morning, and then do one big stage and invite and give everyone free tickets and come at night and make it something raucous. Make it more of a community type thing. Everyone shows up, everyone watches, we all watch the pros, rah, 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 and then kind of go on from there. But yeah, any thoughts on PA Nationals? Good location. It's coming up, right? We're a month away. I got to get my tickets and stuff.
It's coming up. No, I think the only, just as far as people to watch, there is one athlete from New Mexico who has a chance to do something big. Robert Lazarin, who's a young super heavyweight, which he's still a ways behind Ray Williams, but I think he's probably got at least second place locked in the super heavies.
It's so obviously one of the big issues with PA Nationals is that they are using totals from Sheffield to allow athletes to qualify. So it's a huge blunder. I literally said it it's a huge blunder by Powerlifting America to let people qualify for the world team, not at nationals. Like,
Yes.
that's odd and it's weird. And I know it's pseudo political, and it's really just like Powerlifting America is a new organization, and they don't have a lot of political capital, I guess is probably the right way to say it. And so a lot of time, or not a lot of political capital, but maybe just not like the energy to like drum up a fight, right? They're not gonna make these big stands and these big fights because they just don't have the institutional forces or the willpower to do certain stuff. And so it's unfortunate, but so athletes, like we're missing a lot of really talented athletes. And when you talk about like making it a spectator experience, not having Jesus, Russ, Perk, Bob, not having like literally the top 5 men, like actually let's look at that, shall we?
Yeah.
Like it's really sad. We'll go IPF. I mean, Perk, no. Bob, no. Ashton, no. But that would be a separate. He probably wouldn't do it anyway. Russ, no. Jesus, no. That's what 5 of the top American men. Delaney, okay. So Delaney would be the next best that you're going to see.
Ashton's on the roster.
He's probably only on the roster if something went bad at Sheffield.
Okay.
I won't.
Oh, you think he's going to do it though?
You
okay.
won't see him. No. And you'll see Petrie. Okay. So like, yes, I mean you're losing 5 of your top, and like the most watchable one. Like Jesus is number 1 most watchable for sure.
Yep.
Number 2 is like, I guess Russ, because you want to see him lose. I like Perk. Perk is like Captain America, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like he is the best lifter, but like he's almost like too good, so it like doesn't. There's no like edge, which is funny. He's just too good. He's too good. He's too nice. He's too likable. Like it's just weird. He's like he knew who I was, and I didn't know. Like I didn't know he knew who I was, and so it was funny when I met him the first time. But yeah. It will be. There'll be good. Obviously, 83 isn't Joe Borenstein and stuff. Yeah, I'm not. I kind of want to. Let's move on. We'll get into more of the juice of this. Okay, Worlds still perplexes me. I hate Worlds. I'll be honest.
Say more.
I hate Worlds because it's like it's 10 days long, right? And you have a morning session which is unwatchable because it's the worst athletes, right? It's like no one who can win, right? No one who can win in the morning session. So it's like you're not watching that, right? And it's actually like usually overnight, so no one's watching that. Then you have the A session, which is maybe 2 of the lifters who can win. And then again, like I've said before, 6 lifters where you're watching paint dry. Oh, and it's on at 9 o'clock in the morning during the week.
Yes. Yeah.
Like so it's like, as an American, like as I'm one of the most American people, it's just horrible. It's just like it's not made for us. It's made for other people. Like I don't know.
Yeah, but then the question is, well, who is it for? And I don't think I think from right. Yeah. Well then like who is it for? No, exactly. That's exactly right.
It's for the IOC, so the IOC can watch it, and hopefully it becomes an Olympic sport. That's
exactly. Well, and I think that's we keep saying like no new ideas, but we keep kind of running into this. But something that we talked about, you brought up the idea of just take like the top 2 out of each weight class, put them together in like primetime sessions or whatever.
That'd be electric. That'd be too good.
No, I know. Well, and I think this is a question too. As you say, who is it for? And I think that's in maybe we keep going into like new stuff.
Let's talk landscape. We don't need to talk about new ideas. Let's talk.
So this is a landscape thing because so you brought up the ideas. Who is it for? It's for they're really doing this for. I think really to try to keep appeasing the IOC because people keep wanting to make that jump from the World Games to the Olympics. And so they're structuring it the same way as they do with the same way that Olympic weightlifting does it, in the same way that Olympic weightlifting has always done it. And so they're doing it for that rather than what's going to get more eyeballs, right? Which honestly, I think if they actually want to make it to the Olympics, that's what matters. What matters.
I've talked about this multiple times. The IOC wants money.
Yes.
They want to
Yes.
sell their TV contract to NBC. The best way to do that is to get as many people watching as possible. And I think it's just a failure to understand chicken and egg thing. And I do want to go back to what you said about appeasing the IOC. I actually don't think it's just appeasing the IOC. I think what happens is when you run an organization like a committee, you have to please so many people that actually you please no one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because for example, it costs about $450 per lifter. That's like your registration fee. Like, it's not free. Like, it's like heavily subsidized by lifters. It's $450 per lifter. Like, I actually think the Fed subsidizes part of that as well. And their goal is not to get the best lifters. Their goal is to be representative of like all countries. Like, their goal is not to like you can only have one American per weight class, and then maybe a second one depending on like weird circumstances. They cap the number of coaches per country, which is like, that's incredibly strange. Like, the number of coaches. So that means if like an American is coaching a non-American, like that counts towards America's total. It's like that's one of the most blatant anti-American policies I've seen. Like, but let's ignore the Sheffield Wild Cards, which is like the biggest joke in like history. Who cares where the coach is from? Only the IPF cares where the coach is from. So yeah, I hate Worlds. I don't care. The only reason it was good is because the villain lost, right? Like, there was one good moment. That was it. Yes. That was it. The villain, the big bad Russ American lost. I mean, that's it. And everyone says Worlds was good. I'm like, no, it had one good moment that like was really unlikely to happen. That then he went to Sheffield and redeemed himself on a bigger stage anyway. So like now there's like really no narrative. Oh, great moment, but then it ended in 3 months. So yeah, not a big fan of Worlds, but I'll tune in. We'll do a preview. We'll see.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, well, we'll still watch it. We hate this, but we still watch it.
So I want to talk about this because it was really dwelling on me. I like why I'm doing this, right? And I want to get it out there. I want my producer to clip this. So like the reason I'm doing all this stuff is not because I love powerlifting. Newsflash: I do not love the sport of powerlifting. I think it's grueling and it's tough, and like I love lifting in general, and I love watching sports. And I want to bring those two together because right now we have something where it's about lifting. I love lifting, and I love watching sports. And I desperately want to make powerlifting something I can watch. Like when I sit down and I can eat my popcorn and watch a powerlifting meet and actually enjoy it like I do other sports, I will have succeeded. That is my goal. I am fiercely passionate about making powerlifting watchable. That is it. And I will fight everyone until we get that done. Like, because then everyone wins, right? Everyone gets paid, everyone is happy. Like, it's priority number one is like, can we make this something we want to watch? And not just hardcore fans, but everyone. Your mom and dad can sit down and be impressed by a girl lifting 700 pounds and them being competitive and competing against each other. So I just wanted to say that because it'll help everyone if we all get on the same page that we just want to make it more watchable.
Yeah. It's a win-win. It's a win-win. The problem is some things have to change in order for that to happen.
1 billionaire. We're 1 billionaire away. We're one accidental. I'm going to run into one person in an elevator and it'll be all over. All right. That's what I do. I talk to everyone about it because you never know who knows who.
Yep.
Okay. Next we have World Games.
World Games.
World Games is so fascinating. Okay. You're a powerlifting aficionado. What year was powerlifting first in the World Games?
Good question. I actually don't know that. Do you know?
Hold on, you froze out. What'd you say?
Oh, there we go. I actually don't know. It's relatively new. I know that, but do you know do you have the answer at the top of your head?
What would relatively new be?
So it's every 4 years. So I know it was there 8 years ago. Was it there 12 years ago?
1981.
Was it really?
1981. It's been in there for 44 years.
I didn't even know the World Games had been around that long.
It was in the first ever World Games.
Was it
in
really?
1980? Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's been in the World Games. Powerlifting has been in the World Games for a long time.
Who's going to the World Games for powerlifting in 1981?
That's a very interesting question, actually. Um, we'll go look at the roster. Founding member of the International World Games, 1980. Let's go all the way back. Santa Clara, it was equipped. Jim Cash, Fred Hatfield. Wait, let me go to the super heavies.
Really interesting.
Super heavyweight Doyle Kennedy, Dave Shaw.
Huh. How about that? All right. Really? Okay.
I know the treasurer, I think, competed. Tamara competed at the World Games at some point.
Interesting.
I'm sure it was much more interesting when Russia was involved. Russia still has the medal lead in terms of gold medals.
Oh, it
Not
looks like
total.
it. Oh, it was. Oh, it's in. I'm just looking at it now. Oh, that's a pretty tiny roster. I mean, some good people like Jim Cash, Doyle Kennedy. Those are legit names. Yeah, Hatfield. Okay, that's it. Oh, Mauro Di Pascal. Okay, he was a 80 FPA and like OG USAPL guy. Interesting. But like, nope. That's dude. There's like how many people are doing this? It's like 24 athletes altogether. It's like
Well,
nobody. Interesting.
yeah. So I
And
mean,
they're,
okay, that was year
and
one.
they're all and it's all it's almost all Americans, two guys from Japan and one guy from Canada. So like
I mean,
so much for a world games.
powerlifting. I mean, this year it will still be mostly Americans winning. I would. Well, actually, it won't be
No,
because a lot of them aren't going. A lot of them aren't going
no, you'll get. I mean, for
on the raw side.
light on the raw side, on the raw side. Okay, yeah, equipped. It's going to be mostly Ukrainians.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Mhm.
no one. So hold on. The reason it's relevant this year, as opposed to every one of the past 44 years, is because it's going raw. That's why it's
That
relevant.
helps.
Like that is why it's relevant this year, as opposed to every other previous year. And so I just don't understand why people think that somehow removing equipment, changing the way people's gait is when they walk out, is going to radically change how the IOC or anyone else views powerlifting.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it might just be because it's raw. It'll more people will watch it because more people participate in it. More people are familiar with it.
Well,
I don't know if
well,
that
yeah.
will actually
So
make a difference.
the,
Yeah.
the caliber of talent and the personalities that are doing it are much better. Don't get me wrong. Like the
Yeah.
personalities who are doing these things
Mhm.
are much better. But I don't see how World Games is any different than Worlds. Now,
Right.
Big Body made the argument that, you never know what executive is there. You never know who you never know who you're going to meet, who you're going to talk to, who's going to see powerlifting, what Sultan of Brunei's son is going to be interested in lifting.
Mhm.
Like, you just don't know. And I accept that. I accept that explanation. But I flag football, like maybe there's some flag. I just don't. It's not a watchable product. So I just still doesn't solve the problem. Like it's not watchable. So how I don't want to be just too much of a shit talker, which is not watchable. Like it's not structured properly. It's still the same format where it's 10 days long and it's one weight class per day, and it's just again back to what you said. It's very strange that they don't want to try to make this more watchable. Maybe they don't know how. Maybe they're not creative. I mean, they haven't been creative enough in the past 40 years. What's going to change? What's going to change in year 45?
I mean, Gaston is still running things as he has for 30 years, right? So it's the same guy. So,
Yeah, when did he become the charge?
I don't know. He's been around
I'm
forever.
looking at the other sports in the you got air sports. Is that like jumping out of planes? That's actually kind of sick.
That's interesting. But I guess is part of your question, how is this any different than a world championship?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. No, no, it really is. I mean, it's like that for other sports too. It's like what's the like weightlifting has a world championship every year and they're part of the Olympics. So like what really sets it apart, right? Other than just
It's
prestige.
the I mean,
No.
it's the Olympics.
Right,
Like
right.
like they did the Olympics in Greece, like in the ancient Greece. Like it's a different. I mean, we talked about like Austin Perkins is the best lifter in the world right now, or Agatha is the best male lifter in the world right now. And he's skipping World Games. I mean, he's having a child a couple weeks before then. It's just not. It's just not. There's not enough incentives for him to leave his new baby a couple weeks after to go travel to China to do this. It's clearly not important enough, and I agree with that. Some people were like were weird about it. I'm like, no, he should go. Like, it's not important enough. But if it were the Olympics, 2 weeks after you have a baby, like he's not having the baby. Like 2 weeks after, you don't think? I think his wife would make him go to the Olympics. It's the Olympics. Like it's just it's a different. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is the closest thing that powerlifting has, right? I mean, this is if you're in the IPF
Sheffield is infinitely better than this.
No, I would rather win the World Games than Sheffield, absolutely. And even same sort of thing. So I was listening to
We got to ask. I got to ask him. I'm gonna go slide in the DMs. Just ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've listened to a couple of podcasts, Dave Tate podcasts. One that I'm in the middle of, which is with Mike Teixeira, and then one I listened to last week, which was with Blaine Sumner. Both of those guys, their goals were to win the World Games. As athletes, that was the big thing that they were shooting for.
Right, and that was prior to Sheffield, though. So yeah, of course.
Here's the question. I don't know if they would care about Sheffield, though, right? Because again, if you're looking for winning what has the biggest, most prestige, it's on the biggest stage, the hardest thing to call. I mean, it's the World Games.
Sheffield is the biggest stage. Sheffield has the biggest crowd in powerlifting. It's got the best amenities. Like, it's the best production. Like, my like critiques for Sheffield, like, don't change the fact that it is still the best like experience. It's the 24 best lifters in the world. It's all these things that the World Games is not going to be. Like, the World Games has actually some mediocre talent makes it to the World Games. Like, people from random countries are making it to the World Games because the depth is not there, and Americans aren't allowed to go to Worlds. So I vehemently disagree. I think if you interviewed every lifter who's going to the World Games and say, would you rather go to World Games or Sheffield, they would say Sheffield 9 out of 10. I'm trying to think of each effort.
They can be wrong, but that's okay.
It's something that you're asking the talent what they would rather do. Actually, I would like to ask Mike T.
We're asking a small sample size. Mike, yeah, that would be an interesting conversation.
But Mike T coached the Sheffield. I guarantee Mike T is. You know what? I'll ask Matt Gary too.
Yeah. We'll get a little sample size.
Matt's a little more accessible. So anyway, fascinating. I think the World Games discussion is very interesting. I think people just are getting it's the same thing that always happens in powerlifting. One thing happens, right? Any one thing, Nike, any one thing happens and people lose their minds, like it's going to somehow change. I'm like, there's no silver bullets in life. There's no silver bullets in business. It's doing lots of things consistently. Like, it's not getting one sponsor, yes. It's getting 15. It's getting them to renew. It's it's constant growth. Like, you think you're just going to, that's what I'm like, has powerlifting peaked? Like, are we at our peak? Like, are we done? Like how does powerlifting scale? Like, we'll get to that. I probably have another half hour. My niece is getting dedicated. Okay, NAPF. So, any closing thoughts on World Games? I want to move on. It's bothering me.
me. Sure, we can move on. NAPF.
Yeah, NAPF. So NAPF, I put in a little note here for myself. It really only matters for two reasons. NAPF has historically not mattered. It matters now for two reasons. One, you can set world records. So if that's something you're into, like you're like a bench only guy, you want to go set a record, you can do that at NAPF. And it's typically a little more accessible than Worlds. It's going to be somewhere in North America.
It's usually somewhere tropical,
yes.
Which is nice.
Yes. Right. So that causes an issue or doesn't cause an issue, right? So this year was in Arizona, right? Quick plane ride, $200 plane ride, hotel, 1 day, boom, You lift, you go home. So it was really accessible. So a lot of people did it this year, and some are thinking that it's somehow going to become a bigger thing. And it might, because you can set your world records there with maybe very little competition, and then use that to potentially become a Sheffield wild card.
Mm.
Here's the problem. Gaffinated went there, set the world record, and still didn't get a wild card. So,
Interesting.
so like, if you're an American lifter, do you really want to rest all your faith that SBD is going to pick you if you're an American? I wouldn't. I would go do something else, something that might have money. And that's why it's going to get really saucy and really interesting, because there's going to be Rising Tide, which we'll talk about as well, which will have some money and have some prestige. So it's very interesting what's going to happen. And there might also be another money meet around that time as well. So it's very interesting what incentives matter to what athletes. And I think that's the key with NAPF, is what people are going to do with that. But do you know historically what NAPF has been? I mean,
not so much other than just a continental, sort of the continental affiliate of the IPF, right? I think the general idea, without Sheffield being in the mix, is, again, it's just another level of competition, right? Like, the people who typically get like second or third at nationals are the people that are going to go to the NAPF, right? Because they don't go to Worlds, right? So it's just another way to, kind of going back to what we talked about last week. It's just another step, and sort of, you could use it as another step as athlete development. But then the Sheffield thing also makes it a little weird, but we don't have to keep going into that.
Yeah, I think it actually just makes it interesting. Like, you're actually going to get talented athletes who are going to go to this for that reason. But here's the thing: if they know, because they're American, they're not getting a wild card, they're not going to do it.
Yes.
So I wonder if that system changes. It'll have to. Okay, so kind of we'll loop this into the conversation. But Rising Tide is coming to PA. Rising Tide has historic. You familiar with Rising Tide?
No, you should tell me more about it.
Oh, great. Okay. So Rising Tide is Kevin Papa, 110%. It's his meet that he runs. Believe it's in August. It's going to be at some sort of a black box theater in Minnesota. And that's actually kind of really strategic, because there isn't any local meets in Minnesota. So it'll be like kind of two things. It'll be a big local meet for Minnesotans, and it'll also have a national flair, because I believe there's always been prize money. So it's his supplement company puts money in to run this meet. So I'm really interested to see what this does to NAPF. If people decide, hey, I'm going to go do Rising Tide because there's going to be money. I'm curious what the money looks like. I actually I got to scroll back and see what the money was last year. But it's a few, it's a few, I think it's like 10 grand maybe. I'm genuinely curious what it'll look like as far as that goes. But it's a question about, it was a 15K prize pool last year. So I'm assuming it's going to be the same, if not more. Interesting.
Going back to what you mentioned, you said there's no local level meet. Is that no local level Powerlifting America meets in Minnesota, or what about, is the USAPL still up there?
So obviously that's a side quest conversation because of the transgender issue.
Oh, that's right. That's the state.
Yes, that's why it's very interesting. So Powerlifting America do whatever the fuck they want. USAPL is the one that has all the restrictions, because they decided on, God, for a bunch of lawyers working there, they were just idiots about the way they did things. Like, listen, you can be as political as you fucking want, but like, when it comes to running a business, like, I've always said, politics is like a penis. Okay, you don't whip it out in public. Like, you just don't whip it out in public. Like, you're running a business. Your job is to run powerlifting meets. You don't need to be do what's best for your organization. Like, and being in $1 million lawsuit is not Like,
It's
you're
not
telling
good
me there's not.
for any. It's
No,
not good
you're
for
telling me there's not some right wing. You're not telling me there's some right wing lobbyist organization that can't take up the lawsuit for them. Why are they funding this? You're telling me there is.
No, no,
So,
no,
what are you talking about? It's one of the hottest button issues in the world, and you're funding this lawsuit?
no.
You can't get someone to fund. Someone's funding the other side of it. It's crazy. It's like, that's from my perspective. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand the ins and outs. But like, the fact that you're funneling money into this is crazy. You're gonna. I mean, listen, it's probably good publicity. Like, if it goes to the Supreme Court, which it probably will, like, that might be the best thing for powerlifting. Like, in a really fucked up way, it might be the best thing probably, because listen, if you can, like, a Supreme Court case transcends all news outlets, so you're gonna hear the words USA Powerlifting like everywhere. And as we know, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Really, there isn't. I've observed enough from a distance to know that it doesn't matter. It clearly doesn't matter, like, what happens, as long as people know who you are.
Yep, any attention is good attention.
Yeah, for good or bad or whatever you want to talk about, it's just, it is.
I'm especially not, like you say, eyeballs are eyeballs.
No. If I want to post to go viral, I just post something on Hinge.
Yes.
And everyone comments, and they get upset, and it 10, 20K views. Like, so, like,
a great example, and we're getting a little sidetracked, but was you posted about the Super Bowl scoreboard, right?
oh,
Everybody
yeah,
was complaining about it, but you know what? People,
bro, okay, so like literally the week before, it's a very nice, beautiful scoreboard, right? They have millions, if not billions of dollars to spend. Okay, the largest sporting organization in the world. They know that they're not intentionally they're putting it there because what's the first thing you see when the broadcast starts? You see that little score bug, right? And what happens? Everyone goes, they did the exact same thing last year, and I picked up on it last year. And then everyone goes, this is shit. Okay? That pushes the algorithm to start talking about the Super Bowl. The more people that talk about the Super Bowl, the more people reminded that the Super Bowl is on, and they tune. It's literally genius. You cannot tell me that's not what they're doing. Oh yeah, they made the worst score bug ever for the Super Bowl, and like, people are just falling for it. And like, there were meet directors who were like commenting on the camera angles and stuff, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. They know 125 million people were watching this. Shut up. Like, stop talking. Yes. No such thing as bad publicity. There's not, and that's manufactured in such a genius way. You just can't help but like just be in awe. I love that stuff. Oh, beautiful. That's the stuff that gets me going. That's the stuff when you got something like that, 340 chest, just getting on everyone's nerves intentionally to, and like, is it did they commit a crime to get that attention?
No, yeah.
They did colors on the screen.
Yeah, did they execute somebody on screen? Like, no, there's just like, yeah. No,
the colors and shapes were different.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it here. All right,
we need more of that in power. So that's kind of a question.
No, we've literally manufactured shit like that before. Like, I've literally had like some meme accounts go, like, when I was doing the Pro Duel, I'm like, I go, this is going to be better than Sheffield, right? Like, just to get people in the tissues. Like we'll literally do shit like that all the time. Like, it's like Kanye.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, oh,
the stuff that
yes.
Kanye's been doing this stuff for the past decade, and people are still falling for it every single time. I'm like, when he posts literally anything offensive, you know that. Will you be at Ruby's child dedication at noon? Yeah, I've literally mentioned it.
Come up multiple
How many times?
Yeah.
Multiple times, yes. I've mentioned multiple times that I'm on a stop. 10 noon. Okay, now I'm like, now we have plenty of time. I thought it was I had to stop at 10:30. I don't know. Okay, well, we're getting extra time. Hey,
we'll just keep rolling. Perfect. Yeah.
Hey, Vanilla Block, can you tell me what time I need to be at the church? Since apparently it's at noon now. I thought noon was lunch. Now I'm like, now I'm just destroyed. Now I'm like, what are we doing? All right. That's hilarious. I love this part. All right. Anyway. Okay.
But rising tide.
Rising tide. Yes. That's why I had the script. Okay. So this is a great example of a 10:45 service. Okay, so I got to leave at 10:30. Okay, we have 30 minutes. Rising Tide will it's kind of an example of a local pro meet, right? 15K in prizes. It looks like it'll be invite only. If it's just a mirror of so what's happening is I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but what happens is they're taking things and they're mirroring them over, right? And I don't necessarily know if they're improving when they're doing this. And so it's very interesting. We'll see what he does. I have a lot of faith in Kevin. I talked to Kevin was at my work event, so I talked to him. I have a lot of faith that they will do good stuff. I don't know where that fits in the landscape. Like, are we going to have only a few? Like, are local pro meets only going to happen certain times throughout the year? Like, what's going to happen? Is it going to be like? I'd love to see something like the PGA Tour, where there's like a pro meet like every weekend. And like it's like there's money every weekend, and I think you can like the missing piece is spectatorship. Like how do you get people to come watch? Like that's like what's kind of missing, I think, from everything is like how do you like you can if you run these meets and you get the talent to come out, you then have to there's no reason to have talent at your venue unless people are going to watch it. Like there's no reason to put up this prize pool unless people are going to watch it, because then the advertising, you get your money back and you're putting back into the sport and stuff. You there?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah. No. I'm with you. Yeah. No,
I mean,
you were rolling. Keep rolling. No. I'm with it. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's like what's
it's like what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Like
yes.
What's the purpose? What's the point? Like what are we doing? Like okay, you're doing the meet because you want to get your brand out there. You want to give back to the sport. You want to do all these things. Okay, awesome. Like that's his interest, and like that's awesome. Like we're not gonna say like if you want to go do that, go crazy. It's just like where like so how kind of golf works is you go to the PGA Tour and you get a sanction almost the same way as you get a meet. You pay for that, and then you go out and get a sponsor, and that sponsor covers most things, and they put their logo on everything. And then that's kind of how you make money. And then you kind of make money on like getting people out to your course. You make money on because you own the course, like me owning a gym, getting more people to come out to my gym. It's very, very interesting. It's obviously nowhere near as profitable as like the NFL and MLB, all these things. But I guess again, that's why I want to talk about the landscape. Is like where does this fit into the gym? Like I heard that like apparently like it's causing issues with NAPF for a meet like that to be so close to it, which I'm like shut the fuck up, do both. Like you can do both. Like NAPF is first and like Rising Tide is second. You should be okay. Really fascinating, really interesting situation. And that kind of segues to the next meet, which SPD is doing another. I don't even know what you call it. Like it's their like city name. Let's call it the city name series because they name all their meets after the cities they're in. So this meet's in Austin, which is hilarious because I'm like, you got to do a meet and you got to move Sheffield into Austin. Okay, if they move Sheffield into Austin, that would be incredibly successful. They're doing a meet called Austin, which I'm guessing is just another version of the rally meet they did last year. Rally.
What was
I don't care.
What was the rally meet?
They do meets that coordinate with their clothing drops.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. So they do a meet that's like themed around, like their drop. So the color scheme is black and white. So I'm guessing it's something black and white. Is going to be the colorway. And so they do these meets around, and like obviously they have all the talent is sponsored by them. So they bring in all these people and they do like a small prize pool. I think it's like 12,000. And they like do production and stuff as they do. So that kind of gets into my question of like, has powerlifting peaked? Like everything just seems to be repeating itself. And then Sheffield's going to get a little bigger each year. So like, if we don't do what I'm suggesting, is this it? Like, is this the end? Like, have we hit critical mass?
Right. No, it is a good question, but I think that is if you're just recycling the same thing over and over, people will get kind of bored with it, right? I mean, you got to do something. You got to make a few tweaks here and there to make it a little interesting, right?
I mean, to
But yeah,
counterpoint, I mean, the NBA, NHL, MLB, they've had the same similar schedule. NFL has had a similar schedule structure for, I don't know, at
similar
least the
schedule
past
structure,
decade.
but sure, but you can maybe say I don't know if it would be the same in powerlifting. They've made rule changes. There've been little tweaks to the game, right? Obviously, the schedule is the same, but there have been little changes that like, keep it still draws attention. It keeps people engaged. It's not the
Well, yeah,
exact same thing over and over,
I
right?
mean, they edit their rule book based on watchability. Like the only player safety is
Yes, yes,
important,
yes,
important, but like they edit their rule book to make it more watchable. And I've argued this before. So like, whatever formula we come up with to like make it so men and women can compete against each other fairly will not be fair. It will be balanced. So a man and a woman like basically are on the same level no matter what.
Mhm.
No matter how much of an outlier the men are, imagine how much of an outlier the women are. It will be balanced so they can just compete against each other. It won't matter that it's fair or not. It's designed to. The rule book is designed in the NFL to create parity. Like you want it to be as unpredictable as possible. Like unpredictability is what drives attention and revenue and stuff like that. Again, that's why Worlds was so entertaining because something unexpected happened, right?
Yes,
Like
yes,
and Sheffield was kind of underwhelming because both the favorites won, and it was kind of like, brum, brum, brum.
Mhm.
It's like I don't get geeked up because a guy was battling with another guy for second place. like, what, like
Mhm.
people are like getting like their rocks off watching someone try to win second. Like, what do you
Right.
like? What kind of fans are like? That's only powerlifters could be like, ooh, he got second. Like, what do you,
Yeah.
like,
Well, here's a great example of that. So Formula One in 2023, Max Verstappen ran away with almost every single race. Red Bull and Max were so far ahead of everybody else,
yeah,
and
right.
people hated it. And there were lots of battles for like the rest of for second and third, right? Those
Right.
were
Yeah,
interesting,
yeah.
but no one cared. No one cared. No. And then
Cared.
last year, it was all over the place. Like you had a handful of different race winners. There were so many more people in the mix, and people loved it. And it didn't, again, it doesn't
Well, I
matter
mean,
what the rest of the field looks like.
they put on caps. Didn't they put on cost caps after that? Because they're like, we can't do this anymore. Like, we can't.
No, even 2023 was a cost cap year, and they still ran
They're just
away
that
with
much
it. They
better.
were just that much better. They were just that much
You
better.
know, and
Exactly.
like I
So
actually
yeah,
kind of appreciated that about Agatha's performance. Like that was actually it was cool. It was like watching Jordan. Like it was like which I
yeah.
never got to do, but
So
it was like just spectacular. Like her to just do what she did was awesome.
but even the Jordan. But here's the interesting because even the Jordan era, as good as he was, like they still had to work, right? Like those, especially those last two series against the Jazz, like those
Yeah,
were
yeah.
those were really tough 6 game series, right? But that's what made it interesting was they still came out on top, right? Like I think that's something that is tough about powerlifting. If you have somebody like Ray in his prime or Austin at his prime, it's just like I guess that maybe that's what makes the upsets interesting, but it doesn't feel like there's as many surprises or like upsets at the top level because usually there's somebody who is so much farther ahead of everybody else that it's just like you see what their entry totals are and it's pretty much what everybody is going to hit and it's going to stay in that same order and there's just not a lot of it's hard for somebody to pull like an enormous deadlift out of their ass to try to like you know to try to win, right? I guess I'm just trying to say is like it's one thing that powerlifting needs is something to add to the unpredictability of it. Because right now
No
it
new
feels
ideas.
like
No new
you know,
ideas.
I know
No new
it is.
ideas. Another podcast. Another podcast. No, listen. We all know. We
No, I
all
know.
know. Like if you are not don't have chronic brain rot, and I talk about all the things we need to do. Like I said, they're all like it's super easy, super
Yeah,
practical. Like
yes.
just again, and then I have my left wing idea about like the frequency of competition. Sure, that's crazy and radical. Blah blah blah. But like most of the stuff we propose are not crazy. And again, no new ideas. Like we're just talking about the landscape.
Yeah,
Like
sorry.
the current
Current
landscape is. So here's
landscape.
where
Yes.
here's where there is some potential for improvement. And it's actually, we're going to skip all the way to 2026. We're going to skip to
Yep.
November 2026. So Sheffield, there's going to be 2 Sheffields in 2026. Sheffield 2 is going to be in an actual arena. Now, what they have said is and I was at Sheffield, and I was learning the history of Sheffield, the town itself, through the Uber drivers while I was there. Very interesting, like super interesting. Like they talked about a bunch of things. They would they told I would ask them questions in context. They would all I'm American, so they would ask me why I'm here, what am I doing, blah blah blah. So Sheffield 2 is going to be in an arena, and from what I've heard, it's going to be a half arena setup. So they're going to have, it's like a 14,000 seat arena, and then they're going to do a half arena. So it's going to be like 5,000 to 7,000 spectators. Current spectatorship is 2,200. So a couple questions. Oh, so obviously this latest Sheffield sold out the same day. And I think so I had an inside lane. I knew that the tickets were going to go on sale immediately following the event. And so I was able to actually look and see how many tickets they blocked off. And it looked like they blocked off about 500 tickets. That's probably for staff, XYZ, you name it, like whoever they're giving it to, like Gaston, seat, whatever. And so they sold about 1,700 tickets right off the jump. And so I'm like, it's population analysis for me. It's like, okay, how many people are actually buying these things? It didn't sell out immediately, but it sold out. Like it did sell out immediately, but like it sold out. It didn't sell out like in the first hour. It sold out throughout the day as people started to talk more and more. We have limited tickets left, blah blah blah. And tickets are only about $20 to sit in the upper balcony. So the question is, how do you go? What are we going to sell next, right? Like how many people are actually interested? What kind of traffic is there? It's very, very interesting. I wonder how you could even gauge that. Like how many people are actually interested in something like this?
I don't know. I would assume that, well, I think, like we've talked about, it would be a lot bigger if it wasn't in Sheffield, right? If you just move it a little south to London, like that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Maybe I think the cost of venue, and here's the thing, what people don't realize is the local community, like a 5,000 spectator event generates about $1 million in economic impact. I'm guessing the venue, if they get 5,000 spectators, is probably free. So
Okay.
So that's the Formula One model. The Formula One got like $45 million from the city of Austin to do their event there. Like that's their whole business model. The whole business model is what city is going to build us a track and is going to let us use it for free and pay us for the next 20 years, right? Like that's the business model. Like it's basically a free roll. So which is like great. Like Dubai, hundreds of millions of dollars to bring UFC there. Like insane, like just absurd, and so that may very well be the model. Is just to find like a city like Indianapolis where they need the economics, they need the economic development, and just run events there. Make sure you fill the stadium. Make sure you bring enough people through the door. Like
that's interesting. So in a city like London, then it doesn't make sense because a 5,000 person event is like nothing for them, right? When they've got premier, league games that have hundreds of thousands on a regular basis, right? So that's interesting. Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense. It's, and you would have some more insight into this because you were there, but like how many people are they drawing from continental Europe? Because it's relatively easy to get over to Britain from there. Right?
So the only methodology I was able to use, I don't have the data. I just used my eyeballs. I didn't recognize virtually anyone. And so that means, and I'm pretty well endowed in the powerlifting world, and I hardly recognized anyone in the crowd. They all look like powerlifters, though, so I assume they're European powerlifters. It's a quick train ride there. It's a quick $40 train ride. Like I can't imagine that it's like hard to get. And remember, like again, like I talked about, there's nothing else in professional powerlifting. It's a monopoly. So like if you're interested in watching professional powerlifting, you don't. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to compare it to. There's no competition. So like, I think it's selling out is like kind of like a no-brainer, I guess. I think it just like for me, it's like duh. Like I almost like knew it was gonna like it did. It sold out the last time. So like I think they would just maybe made a bigger presentation. Hi, JoJo. Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. I mean, the question is like, what you have to do is you have to like get into a bigger stadium and then see next. I guess that's the next step.
Yes.
See what the bigger stadium. And it's probably close to a free roll. They're obviously still losing money because of the prize pool, but like it's a free roll in terms of the arena itself, as far as how many people they can get to go in there.
So do you think so? Ed, how big is the venue that they're using in Austin? Do you have any idea?
Oh, you know what? They haven't, which is interesting. You're not supposed to allow, a meet is not supposed to be announced without a sanction, and I don't see the sanction posted. But this is a signature. This is a signature sanction, so it might be different. Events, calendar.
So I get while you're looking at that, sort of what I'm wondering is like how
So
well can that?
Austin is only American lifters. It's not like a Sheffield clone. It's
only
the top
American lifters. Okay.
Yeah, it's the top 20 lifters from Powerlifting American Nationals get invites, and then the rest are all what's the word? Wild cards.
Well, okay. So how do you think if?
Oh,
Do you
at
think
the Marriott? It's interesting. So SPD Austin it's at the Marriott South Austin, which has the best tiramisu in the world. I've told this story multiple times. So it's at the Marriott South Austin. So I'm guessing it's in one of the ballrooms there.
Okay.
It's going to be where it's at.
So not as big, but have you been there? Could you get a ballpark of what capacity is like for that?
I mean, they could put as many chairs as they probably wanted in there. It's not a theater, and I don't know. I mean, they could rent LED boards. They could do all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's again extremely variable. Are they working with the commission there, like the Austin Sports Commission?
Yeah, but again, is that do you think how many people are going to show up to spectate it? Is that going to be a 200, 500,000 person thing? Like what's your sense there?
So here's general rule of thumb. If you're in a venue, it's only one day, right? You don't get a venue for multiple days. It's just too expensive. I'm guessing it's just the exact same formula they use for Raleigh. You have a morning session that's local. You have a primetime session that's more competitive. You're going to have prize money for the top 3 men, top 3 women, and like it's just copy paste. Like it's straight up copy paste. The meet probably, if you made a budget, will lose money, and then SBD covers it. So it's like it is covered by a sponsor. So yeah, very very interesting. Good location. I mean, I can't judge the location. I'm sure the production will be fine. The question is like, what's the prize money look like? What do the prize pools look like? Stuff like that. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm guessing it's just a repeat of that. I can't imagine it's anything other than that. But yeah, I don't think it solves the problem. I mean, it will probably be more watchable than most meets. It doesn't. I don't think it solves any of the major problems, but
no. But this is essentially like another Sheffield just with American lifters, right? I mean, that's the structure of it.
Oh, exactly. It's the same. It's going to be percentage of the world record base, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't think there's anything. I'm peeking into the other sanctions because there's some of them got updated. I keep tabs on this a lot. Yeah, Rising Tide August 16th. Let's see if I see anything else. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, actually, what's funny is the local level is probably pretty much locked in terms of the bigger stuff. New Jersey State Championship. Interesting. very, very interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, okay. I've got 7 more minutes, so let's go. We'll have PA Nats next year. Unfortunately, I think that one's going to be really bad. That might be the worst PA Nats we're ever going to experience.
Why is that?
Because you've got two Sheffields.
Oh, okay.
So athletes are going to be able to qualify. I'm guessing. I don't think PA is going to make a stand. I think you'll qualify from Sheffield. They'll go to Worlds, and then you'll go to Worlds, and then you'll qualify for Sheffield 2 in November, and then you'll still have NAPF in like around August. That'll be like a second chance qualifier. I think they should combine NAPF and like the SBD Austin stuff and just combine them and then make it so you can set world records there and there's prize money. That would probably just be best for everyone. But again, anytime the IPF runs meets, it's usually not like the craziest production. It's super interesting. Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. And then what's actually having 2 Sheffields in 1 year is actually cool. It's awesome. It's great. I mean, I've always argued we should have like 10 Sheffields, but like, and then 2027, if we're looking really far ahead, they're going back to 1 Sheffield.
Yeah, that's right. Why are they doing that?
Yeah. Well, so remember, it's a very fucked up relationship between like SBD and the IPF and stuff. I mean, I don't actually know that, but I'm just speculating. Because in the NGB minutes, Gaston literally says, we don't feel like an equal partner in Sheffield. They're not, obviously. They don't do anything. Yeah. And like they're not an equal partner. There's really minimal IPF branding anywhere, which I couldn't believe. And it's really just kind of SBD running the show, which is fine. I mean, I prefer a for-profit company running the show to a member committee-based organization. I think that's like generally good. The like government NGO versus a private company. I'd rather have a private company run things. But like they're not happy they're not being represented. But they also have to work with the IPF. So like you're gonna have nationals in Q1. Then you're going to have Worlds in Q2. You'll have NAPF in Q3-ish. Like, it'll kind of go back and forth. It's probably more like thirds. The first third of the year will be nationals. Second third of the year will be Worlds. And then the third third of the year will be Sheffield. So from now on, you kind of have this general formula. But that formula is all based on the opinion that athletes can only compete every 12 weeks.
Right.
Because the goal is to lift as much weight as possible. It's not to win, it's to lift as much weight as possible. So because the incentives are still, again, the incentive, like what I'm really proposing is not that we change the schedule, but we change the incentives. And then because we change the incentives, we can then change the schedule. But yeah, I think it looks very much like they're trying to settle things into a set schedule. But I don't know if that makes things easier to scale. I don't know if it makes things easier to organize. I don't know.
I mean, it's easier it seems like easier on the part of the athletes if you have something set like that. And again, like kind of the same sort of thing with golf. There's not really, you've got the 4 majors, right? It's like they're all fairly equal in prestige. And your goal is to try to win all of them, right? It's not like you're picking choices.
Right, but that's completely different because you can do one major and not do another. As long as you're, I think as long as you are a certain level of pro, you can just go to each one. But here's the problem is, if you're hurt in Q1 or you're not, or you lose, you're done for the year. Like you got to wait till next year. Like Rondell's not going to touch any of the world stages until 2027 or 2026. 2026. So who knows? I mean, he's getting older. Who knows? Like you never know.
Right.
Like we're not going to see. We'll see him this year at PA Nats, and that's basically it. So yeah, super interesting, fascinating. Like I hope we can do some other things other than this. I think it's almost a little dark when you think about it. I think the positive is Sheffield in a bigger arena. I don't know if that's going to generate more viewership on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know if that generates more viewership. I don't think it does. I don't think moving things to a bigger arena may help generate more. Again, they don't generate any revenue off the stream, so it's like they have to generate revenue there. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm really looking for. Is like what they probably release tickets pretty soon. They'll probably release tickets like maybe during the summer. Maybe we'll see for Sheffield too. And that will kind of tell me where we're going, what the ceiling is, what the floor is, stuff. I mean, they've actually achieved a really important thing in business, and I've seen this in multiple cases across multiple industries. If you get to a point where your stuff is selling out, you create this really powerful fear of missing out that almost transcends your brand. Like if you have something that continues to repeatedly sell out, people are going to be at their computers, ready to go. I mean, I've seen this happen in my business where we develop these meets that are really, really good, and people just get on the computer to sign up for them immediately as they drop. So they found a really, really important thing that will help them scale. So I'm interested to look at that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. You've got one. I know we've got one more minute before you've got to go, but all this taken into account, I would say just a yes or no, since we got to keep it quick. Has powerlifting peaked?
No, not at all. No. I think for that reason that I think powerlifting has peaked on. So what we see from USAPL Nationals that we're going, and powerlifting American Nationals will become the exact same thing. It'll look exactly like that. It'll be around 1,200 lifters because that's probably the most we can even manage logistically. That's peaked. Worlds has already peaked. Worlds will and cannot get any better unless it goes to a better location, which is possible. World Games, I think, is just kind of, it's every 4 years. It's almost kind of irrelevant. NAPF has a little room for growth, but that growth is only developed by Sheffield being a Sheffield motivator. The where we have the most room for growth, I think, is the Rising Tide, SBD Austin, the stuff I do is that middle area where if we do a meet I do a meet every single month that's got like $1,000 in prize money, people will just jump in and do their SBD day. And so then if I can get enough people to jump in and do their SBD day, and then some spectators want to watch, and I can make a couple $1,000 and they can make some money, like that's a little secret sauce that I think we can find in there. And then I think Sheffield has not unlimited room for growth, but because it's the only game, it's the only thing going on, I think they could get to 10,000 spectators coming in. I mean, you make it an event for the Europeans, they go for a day, they drink their beer, they have a good time. I think there's potential there for sure. But I don't think we've peaked at all. I think the peak is going to be, for this concept, the peak is going to be 10,000 people going to Sheffield every year. It's still not going to make any money, so it really won't matter because the prize pool will have to go up, depends on if there's any competitors. If there's a competitor to Sheffield, the prize money will have to go up to compete. What does that look like with Article 14? Does Article 14 like that? That's going to be very interesting. What all comes into play there. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Interesting.
Always a pleasure.
Very, very interesting. I'm sure we'll do this. We'll do this again. We can talk more. I think the idea, it's kind of lame, but the conceptual stuff is much more interesting. Talking about ideas and stuff is more interesting than talking about like what's actually. I just want to talk about what's in front of us, just to give us context.
Yes. And
then we can kind of see how do we improve these things. Maybe that'll be the next topic.
Yeah, good to talk about ideas, but always good to be grounded too.
Yes, grounded. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right, thank you so much. I'm Sebastian. That's Bill. This was Listen for Commands. Got to go dedicate a child. I will see you guys next time.